it's if the hijab is the compulsory hijab is gone, basically the base of the Islamic Republic is gone, because they build it based on that.
Sonia Hafsa Shafi, you were born and raised in Tehran, have been living in Switzerland since 2000, and work as a filmmaker. Your documentary City of Walls opens with the statement, "Searching your own history is like reading a book you've read a long time ago." What are your memories of Iran before the revolution?
I was about 8, 9 when the revolution happened. And I have really vague memories of the revolution, because at the time my parents were divorced, so I was living with, sometimes I was living with my mother, sometimes I was living with my father. Whenever I was with my mother, then my mother was taking part in demonstrations, and then we went out. I would always see these young men and women standing on a car back of a truck and demonstrating, and with their afro hair and flare pants, flare jeans. That's I was just a kid. I didn't understand what was going on, but I knew that my mother and my aunt, some of my aunts, they participated in the demonstrations, but when I actually, when I realized really everything changed, that was when I had to, from one day to the other day, I had to change my school uniform. Then I realized, oh, it's not anymore the same. So because before the revolution, we didn't have to wear hijab, we didn't have to wear scarf. We had like a school uniform, which was like a dress above a knee until here, and we had to close our hair like here to either here or on the back, and that was it, and it was dark blue. And then after the revolution, suddenly they told us that one day. They told us we cannot go anymore that way to school. We had to change. We have to cover our body. We have to wear a long coat that comes until underneath our knee, and then white pants. It has to be dark color, and then the coat has to cover our feminine shape. And then we couldn't have long fingernails. We had to wear a headscarf. Actually, it wasn't even a headscarf. It's kind of it's something we call marne. It's like a headdress that has it's like a skirt, has a little hole here just for the face, and then comes until under our breast. It had to be everything covered. And then we could only show our hands, and feet also had to be covered. And so that's when I realized actually things has changed. I cannot go the same way to school. And then we had always, suddenly they started to teach us religion at school. And we had someone who was responsible to take care of the hijab or the covering of the girls, that we couldn't even though the school was separated, we went to a separate school than boys, but we still had to cover our hair at school. And then someone would stand in front of the school to check before we entered the school if our fingernails were short, and then we didn't have fingernail polish on them, and then we had to wear. I had white sneakers that I really wanted to have was a white Adidas sneakers. I really cried. My mother bought it for me. I was so happy. I had to color it into black to be able to go to school. Otherwise, I wasn't allowed to enter. If you didn't dress well, they would send you home. That's actually what that's when I realized things are not the same anymore.
Why have the mullahs managed to remain so powerful for more than 40 years?
After the revolution, when Khomeini took power, actually, he asked people to join a force, like a part of a military force was, and which called Basij. And then many youngsters joined. And then in every school they built a little kind of a committee that it's from the Basij, and they tried to recruit students. And this started from primary school until secondary school and university and middle school and high school. We all had this kind of a Basij kind of a committee, and then they tried to recruit student into this Basij, and then they would teach you how to use the gun, how to actually fight in a war, and that's how they recruited these young people. Then these young people grew up to be soldiers of Revolutionary Guard, and they have a lot of power. So when there is demonstrations, they go out and they are ruthless. And they basically kill people, beat them, and they beat them in a way that they die. They don't just, beat them on the leg. They really beat them on the head. And many of the youngsters, they die. So they have also a lot of plainclothes forces. They go in the middle of demonstrations, and they beat people. It's just they have a lot of power. And unfortunately, also, when there are demonstrations going on in Iran, they don't get a lot of support from the Western world or from the free world.
What was the state of the Iranian opposition when you left in 2000?
When I left Iran, there were in Iran we don't have really parties, different political parties or opposition. There were, at the beginning we had only one party, and that was, we just had one group of people who were leading, and they actually hijacked the revolution, because the revolution it was a popular uprising, and there were so many different parties participated in the revolution. They were communists, they were mujahid, they were laics, they were liberals, and they were these mullahs. And they all came together and did the revolution. And then, but at the end, when Shah left Iran, actually, then the mullahs basically hijacked the revolution, and they basically prosecuted and killed many of these opposition, and then many of them left Iran, and so they took the power. And then they really established, by establishing the military force, Revolutionary Guard, and Basij force, they actually became really powerful.
What is happening in Iran right now?
Well, to go back to your last question, when I was in Iran, we had still hope that there will be change within Iran, like within the system, because within the system then came out an opposition group. After 20 years came the reformists, which were actually, these people were part of the system, but they came out, they kind of reformed themselves, or they changed their mind. And then we had hope that the reform is possible. And so I was voting mostly for the reformists, for the leftists or the reformists, the people who wanted to actually to reform the system and open up socially for people. So I still have had hope that there will be change. But the difference between then and now is that people lost hope. And so these movements, these demonstrations in Iran, actually, they are not even asking for reform. They are just asking for change. They just don't want the Islamic Republic of Iran, because it's not possible to change this system. They built the system in a way that it's not possible to reform it. I mean, when, for instance, the presidential election, they filter all the electorate, they filter it out until you have only two options left, and you have between worse and bad, you have to choose one. And then people somehow, people learn that there is no change. Even if we go and try to elect people who are more on the reformist side, nothing is going to change, because they are going to filter out, and there is no option. You cannot choose between left and right. You can choose only between worse and bad. And so people don't have hope, and they want change. They want actually they just don't want this regime.
You can see a lot of schoolgirls revolting in Iran right now. Is this revolt against the Islamic Republic a feminist revolution?
I think it's both. It's 80% of Iranian people are highly educated, and a high percentage of it are women. And knowledge, I think, is the key to change. Once you study, then you learn, and then you progress, you improve, and then you ask for freedom. And people, they just want freedom. They want to choose what they want to wear. They want to own their own body. We are basically fighting for our bodily autonomy. We have no bodily autonomy. We cannot choose what to wear. We cannot choose what to do. They want to dictate us what to think, how to think, what to like, what to not like. And then at some point, people just have enough. And another thing is that at the beginning of the revolution, hijab was, they came with compulsory hijab, and it is the red lining of the Islamic regime in Iran. If the hijab is, the compulsory hijab is gone, basically the base of the Islamic Republic is gone, because they build it based on that. And they also want to control women.
Why does hair matter so much in the Islamic Republic?
Control. It's not even the hair, it's the control. They just want to control women. And we see it in mostly theocratic regimes. They always suppress women. In Islamic Republic of Iran, the hair is also part of the suppression. It's not even hair. You know, women, they are not demonstrating only to take off their hijab. They are demonstrating to have bodily autonomy, to choose what they want to wear, and to go out the way they want to go. And these generations who are demonstrating, they are TikTok generations. When I was in their age, we had no TikTok, we had no internet. We had only access to books. So only connection I had to outside Iran was reading. So I would read a book, then I know what is going on outside Iran. That was my only connection. But this young generation, they are connected to internet. They see the world differently, and they want exactly the same thing as a Swiss teenage person wants. Freedom, happiness, they want to go out, they want to experience life, they want to be free, and the Islamic Republic doesn't allow them. And that's why They have it up to here, I think.
Now, Western individuals who criticize the mullahs and the Islamic Republic and its system have often been called Islamophobic by academics and activists who are usually Westerners themselves. What do you think of this accusation?
I think Islamophobia, being Islamophobic, it's different than criticizing Islamic regime for forcing women to wear hijab or cover themselves. I think forcing women to take off their hijab or wear the hijab, it's to us is equal. It's the same. Before the revolution, during the Shah time, the father of Mohammad Reza Shah actually forced women to take off their hijab. Women, they were forced to take off their chador. If they were wearing chador, they would get beaten up to take off the chador, and the police comes and rip the chador off that day, and then women, they had to go home without it. Otherwise, they would be punished if they would wear hijab. And so I think that was as wrong as what this regime is doing by forcing women to wear hijab. And I think criticizing a theocratic regime, it's not for forcing women or forcing their population to follow strict Sharia rules. It's not Islamophobic. But forcing a woman who chooses to wear a headscarf, forcing her to take it off, and that, I think, is Islamophobic.
What is the state of the Iranian opposition in exile, especially in Switzerland?
I really don't know, because I don't take part in the opposition activities. I'm not part of it. I'm just a filmmaker, and then I express my ideas and my vision through my films and through my work. So I don't know the state of actually the opposition, but I know that they are also fighting, and they probably they build lobbies and they try to influence politicians here to stand against the Islamic Republic. I can imagine, or I hear, but I don't really know, because I'm not part of the opposition. I'm just a filmmaker. I'm an artist.
Internationally, Iran is heavily sanctioned. What are the consequences for the people who live there?
I think sanctions are not really planned intelligently, that it doesn't hit normal people. Actually, the effect of sanctions, those who are suffering from the sanctions are normal people. I recently had a conversation with someone in Iran, and then he told me that actually most of the people would love to go and join demonstrators, but they have, economically, they are so under pressure, because most of them, they have no other source of income, and many of Iranians, they're working for governmental institutions, and they are afraid if they go and take part in demonstrations, they lose their job, and therefore they lose their source of income. But deep inside, everyone is unhappy. And actually, basically, majority of people, even those religious people, are actually with demonstrators. So that's because of the sanctions, people are so poor. But the people in power, they have a lot of money. And unfortunately, when it comes, for instance, to nuclear deal, they don't include human rights in this agreement. And that's why Iranians are actually angry with Western world or the countries who are involved in these negotiations, why don't they include human rights in these negotiations?
Do you think Switzerland could play a diplomatic role in this regard?
I think as a neutral country they could. They could actually use their position. They are also a representative of American interest in Iran. So I think they could play a role. They could also stand by Iranian people and demonstrators and support them. They come out. They should come out and support Iranians. They should impose sanctions actually on those people under the Revolutionary Guard, Basij, and those institutions who are suppressing people and killing people on the street.
In France, the headscarf is banned in public buildings. Would you support a similar ban in Switzerland?
I don't. Because for me, I think the banning hijab has exactly the same effect as in Iran they are forcing it. In Iran, people who are demonstrating, if you look at the images coming out of Iran from the school or on the street, you see women with hijab and women without hijab, taking off their scarf. Some of them, they don't. And they are all protesting against the compulsory hijab. And I don't think that it helps actually by forcing people to doing something. It actually it has an opposite effect. And I don't think that even though I believe this hijab wasn't even originally part of Islam. Prophet Muhammad's wives, they didn't wear hijab. His wife Khadija didn't wear hijab. His other wife Aisha didn't wear hijab. He was carrying her on his shoulder and she had long red hair, Aisha. She didn't wear hijab. And I think hijab was actually, after Muhammad died, I think they brought it basically to suppress women. Even though I believe hijab was actually later on brought up and they forced women to wear hijab basically because they wanted to control women. But now I think it is so long after that, and some women who are believers and they would like to wear hijab, and I think they should be allowed to. If they choose to wear it themselves, if they are not forced by their husbands or their fathers or their brothers, and if they choose themselves to wear the hijab, I don't see a reason why should someone force them to take it off.
The title of your upcoming fiction, set for release in 2023, is My Friend a Jihadist.
Yeah.
What is it about?
Well, it's a fiction, and I cannot tell too much about it because it's not yet finished. I'm still developing the story. But basically, in one line, if I tell, it's a story of actually a disillusioned Muslim immigrant in Switzerland who goes and joins ISIS.
Do you think it will ever be screened in Tehran?
I don't think so. No. It's not about Iran actually. The characters are not Iranians, so I don't know. I don't think so. No. My film was broadcasted on Swiss TV and also on Arte. And then in Iran, so many people have seen it, but it wasn't officially broadcasted in Iran. But in Iran, because so many people have satellite dishes, even though it's illegal, everyone, even those religious guys who are with the regime, they have satellite dishes at home and they watch Western programs or channels. And so the film was seen on by Iranian people have seen the movie actually And that's why when I went back to Iran, actually they stopped me in the airport. They took my passport, and I had to go to do some interviews. I mean, interviews not for TV, but I don't know. It's kind of an interrogation. So to talk, and they asked me why did I show my film on Arte, and I said it wasn't my decision. It's the film is a Swiss production, and then my producers, they decide where to show the film, and I just get my salary, and that's about it. I'm just the artistic director and writer of the movie, but I don't make decisions about. But they are so. The Iranian regime is so paranoid. They think every Iranian who is living outside Iran and doing something artistic or writing a book, they get probably paid by CIA or the British Secret Service.
Israel.
Yeah, Israel. Whoever does anything is paid by them because they just want to bring the regime down. And it's not like this. And they asked me in one of the interviews, the guy, because I went there 2-3 times, and the guy asked me if I got money from America. I said, no, I didn't get money, first of all. It was my producers, they got money, and they can even go to internet and find out how much money the film got, the project got, because it's a public actually source, and it was produced by Swiss TV and then the Swiss Culture Ministry. I didn't get any money from America, and they are, because they are paranoid.
One last question: what are your hopes for the current protests?
These current protests are heartbreaking. I know that this regime is not reformable. You cannot reform this regime because it's built in a way that it's not possible to get reformed. Basically, there is one person on top, which is supreme leader and controls everything. So my hope is that it ends into a democratic regime or system in Iran where people can freely choose which system they want to have in Iran and how they want to dress, how they want to live. I just wish for a free Iran.
We wish that too. Many thanks, Sonja.
Thank you.